Our headlines for you today. Energy bills to rise. The regulator Ofgem will announce the details of its price cap for the spring and early summer in the next hour.
Good morning. It'll mean average household energy bills rising by at least £85 a year from the 1st of April. We'll get the exact figures at 7 this morning.
And let's start with that breaking news. We've just heard that the energy regulator Ofgem has announced a rise in its price cap for spring and early summer months.
Yeah, we're just getting the details now, and Ben can tell us all about it. Morning, Ben.
Morning. Yes, this will not be welcome news to people who are already grappling with high bills and bills going up once again. Let me explain what we've found out. The energy regulator Ofgem has just announced that the average household energy bill will be £1,849 a year. That's a rise of £111 on the current level and has gone up by more than expected. This is the third increase in a row. Those figures relate to the average annual household bill. Remember, the cap is on the unit price for gas and electricity, not the total bill. So the estimates for a typical home using the average amount of energy, if you use more than average, you will pay more than that. These prices come into effect from April the 1st. They'll be in place until the next price cap at the start of July. You may be wondering, why have prices risen again? Because we usually expect to see prices fall in April with the weather turning milder. But wholesale costs for energy have been rising. Global pressures from ongoing conflict in Ukraine, and the winter was colder than expected across Europe, which has squeezed supply and driven up the prices.
France's President Macron has said there could be a truce between Ukraine and Russia in weeks after holding talks with Donald Trump at the White House.
Tackling phone theft. Police will no longer need a warrant to search a property for a stolen phone in the government's new bill to tackle crime.
The tech regulator Ofcom announces new guidelines to protect women and girls online. But campaigners warn social media giants are not doing enough to tackle the issue.
Coming in from the cold and letting off steam, why more of us are visiting our local public sauna. Well, let's have a look at this morning's papers, starting with the Telegraph today. They're leading with that meeting between France's President Macron and President Trump at the White House. That's a picture, or certainly pictures similar to that, all over the front pages this morning. They're reporting that France is willing to deploy some of its nuclear arsenal in Germany to boost the sharing of defence capability.
The Daily Mail this morning is leading with the revelation that 19-year-old Nicholas Prosper in the picture, who pleaded guilty to murdering his mother and two siblings at their Luton home, was also planning to carry out a mass shooting at a school.
The Metro focuses on the government's plans to change the law to ensure sex offenders cannot change their names to avoid detection.
And the Times this morning, this is interesting, says that audiobooks could inspire pupils to engage with literature. It's reporting research by the National Literacy Trust, which says audiobooks should be used in the classroom alongside the written word. That's good. I mean, I've got quite into audiobooks recently.
I listen to audiobooks all the time.
And it's a way of kind of, you know, when you haven't got time to actually just sit and engage, you can still enjoy the story.
Problem is, though, that then when you try and read an actual book, you kind of get out of the habit of reading, which is really bad. I think you've probably got to do both.
Yes. OK, I will. What have you seen inside?
Oh, you'll love this. This is in the Telegraph today. Apparently, parents of girls pay more for their school uniforms than boys, according to new research. In primary schools particularly, parents of girls paid an average of £246 compared to £217 for boys. 13% difference. I don't understand why this is. I don't have girls, so I don't.
Why should? I mean, is there more kit? I wouldn't have thought so.
No. On skirts, if they're wearing a skirt, some wear trousers. Should a skirt be more expensive? No, don't get that at all.
MPs have been reviewing school uniforms and labels and badges and trying to reduce the cost for mums and dads, but that's a cost that
it's a dear do, John.
I don't think they've talked about.
Today at 1, another increase in energy prices as the watchdog announces its latest updated price cap. The cost of gas and electricity will go up for the third time in a row. We'll explain what it means for you. Also on the programme, in the past few minutes, the Prime Minister has announced that defence spending will rise to 2.5% of GDP by 2027.
So starting today, I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War.
The first female chief executive of the NHS in England, Amanda Pritchard, says she's stepping down from the role. The BBC apologises as a report into alleged predatory sexual behaviour by the former Radio 1 DJ Tim Westwood is published. And there's a treat in store in our skies. 7 planets, all visible in what's being called a once-in-a-lifetime event.
At 6 billion more for defence, as the Prime Minister says Britain faces grave new threats.
Starting today, I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War.
The extra money for the armed forces will come from a cut in the foreign aid budget.
A big moment, a big decision ahead of a big meeting. The Prime Minister heads to see President Trump in America tomorrow. But firstly, he's been holding a news conference here in Downing Street in the last half hour or so. We'll bring you the highlights shortly.
Also tonight, a much bigger than expected rise in energy bills is announced from April. Caught on camera the moment thieves stole a solid gold toilet from Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire. And live images of Jupiter, part of a rare planetary parade this week that won't be visible again until 2040.
And more than 1,000 musicians, including Annie Lennox and Kate Bush, have released a silent album to urge the government to better protect creative material from the impact of artificial intelligence.
Hundreds of social care providers marched outside Parliament today, demanding the government rethink rises to national insurance. They warn the increase is going to cause some of them to go bust. Now, the government says it inherited a system facing significant challenges, which they are committed to tackling head-on. And the Isle of Man has taken what is being called an historic step towards legalising assisted dying. Members voted on various amendments, including proposals to reduce the residency criteria from 5 years to 1, which were rejected. But those behind the bill are hopeful that it could become law later this year. A court heard claims today that a 15-year-old boy racially abused an 80-year-old grandfather before beating him to death in a car park near Leicester. Bim Coley was attacked last September while walking his dog, and he suffered fatal injuries. Jurors were told that a 13-year-old girl had encouraged the violence and even filmed it on her phone whilst laughing. The teenagers deny killing Mr. Coley. Rajiv Popat is at Leicester Crown Court. And Rajiv, I mean, it's pretty clear the details of this case are really upsetting, aren't they?
Yes, they are, and this trial is very different to a trial involving adults, and that's because the defendants are children, a 15-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl. They were not sat in the dock, they were actually sat in the back of the courtroom, and the jury were told that the judge and the various barristers would not be wearing gowns and wigs.